So today we're going to talk a little bit about seeds, planting seeds. So you can normally go to the store and buy various seeds, annuals, crops, things like that. On the back they'll kind of tell you how to plant them, sometimes when to plant them. Pay attention to that. Do some of your own research. Find out kind of what works best in your area. There's a couple of these other companies like Baker Creek, Heirloom Seeds, or Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. That'll do really unique varieties of plants. But then you can also kind of start saving your own seeds. So you save them in a kind of a cool, dry space, bags, jars, you name it. You can kind of start saving them. Tons of basil seeds. This has the husk on it. Still, the seed's pretty small in there. Whenever you save some of the seeds, sometimes they'll contain some of the characteristics that help it be stronger in the next generation. So the DNA that will form from maybe saving a seed of one crop, the next season it'll actually carry some of that DNA, and it'll remember things like a drought or water scarcity, and it can actually kind of form to be more resilient the next season. So saving generational seeds is really kind of key to building crops that work well and specifically in your area. There's a couple other ones, butternut squash that I've grown, really productive. One plant will produce maybe about 25 squash, ghost peppers, castor bean tree. So this went out hiking and was able to find some of the seeds for this. Only takes one crop again to get more seeds growing. So Crawford lettuce here. This one I've actually only planted once, but because I let maybe about 20% of the crop go to form its seed head in the garden, it drops its seed every year, and every year I've been getting Crawford lettuce just from planting it 2 years ago. So that's another way to save it, is basically in the seed bank, the soil seed bank. When making a soil mix, something like a seed starter mix, you want to use a couple of different things. You can either buy something from the store that's already mixed, or you can basically make your mix of your own. So basically the way that I do that is I use mostly compost, and then I'll mix in a couple of the old seed trays. Seeds that didn't germinate from last season always have a little bit of bucket of that. And then you mix in a fiber. So there's cocoa coir. It comes in a block like this. You gotta hydrate it with water until it's usable. The less sustainable version of that is peat moss. And this actually has an acidic kind of quality to it, so you can use it if you're planting containers like berries, blueberries and stuff like that, if you want to increase the pH acidity. Then you can add things like perlite, which is basically popped volcanic rock. It allows air and water to flow through and drain properly. There's also vermiculite, which basically can hold water really well. You make these mixes together and you'll kind of form up with something that is nutritious and soft. You can add various nutrients to it, rock phosphates, things like that, to help with the root production. But really, it's easy to make some out of resources that you can buy from your local nursery. And you can kind of experiment with different recipes. There's all different kinds online, but I usually just use what I have available at the time. Okay, once you get your seed mix done, we can start doing some of the trays. So one thing to keep in mind is the seed size. So whenever we're looking at things like a basil, this basil seed is pretty small, so it's about the size of a poppy seed. So seeds like this, what we do is whenever we plant it, you almost just put it right on top, and then I like to mix just a little bit of soil over the top whenever it's real small like that. The next size seed up will be something like this okra seed here. So this okra seed, the rule of thumb, you sort of use your thumb, poke a little hole in, drop the seed on in there. You can put multiple seeds in the hole, and then you can thin out whichever one grows. That way, in case of one of these don't germinate, then you got a second chance. Third size is going to be up to a large seed. And this one, just like the other one, would be about up to this first increment of finger right here, this first knuckle. Put that in. There you go. And again, you can plant multiple seeds in the same tray. One other method is making soil blocks. That avoids using these plastic trays, and it goes kind of for a free form that allows the roots to actually move in between each block and move freely, and they'll also get to the edge of the block and stop growing, so they'll kind of be just sitting there waiting to grow out in that direction instead of kind of spiraling around in the plastic container. The way you do that is with the soil block maker press here. You can find these online. You make your mix a little bit more watery, kind of like a mud, and you go and you grab a bunch of it, compress it, and then the blocks like this, put it on down. It makes this cool, pretty cool little seed block here. So the last thing you want to keep in mind is maybe putting it in a little bit of a tray, something with a lip, because you can water the tray, water on the bottom, and it'll actually soak up through what's called capillary action. So the water will actually come in through these holes on the bottom, absorb into the soil, and this soil will start pulling it up. It'll start wicking it up. So this whole thing will be hydrated and moist, and it actually doesn't disturb the seed, versus if you water from the top. Sometimes, especially things like our basils here that are really delicate seeds, they can get disturbed if water is coming too heavy on the top. So watering from the bottom is another technique, and also that allows kind of some of that moisture to stay in the area and get absorbed in there.